The reason for that is because the very first year that I was a teacher, I was also pregnant with our first child, Eli. It's beautiful and it is an amazing opportunity, but I don't know if it will be that way forever. We've, years down the road, we've talked about some of our dreams and goals and over the course of 25 hours. And I lost my mind a little. I don't think we'll get too much into that. I knew when we purchased it on my 21st birthday that it was our forever home.
Yeah. I remember last time I was thinking made me bleed.
This is a problem.
We got dust in here.
Don't you speak to me like that. You dust in here. If it's bothering you, you clean it.
It's not bothering me.
All right then. Why don't you face that way while you do this?
Why? I don't understand. What's that going to do?
Then they can see the faces you're making.
I'm sure they can see them. Okay. Let's go.
I'm going to make you do the intro if you don't start acting even slightly serious.
We're going to talk about a few things. Intro, done.
Welcome to the Brittney and Brandon Show, or welcome back if you've been here before. This is episode 9, much to Brandon's disbelief.
I don't think it is.
It is episode 9. He's going to be over there in denial, but that's fine. We have a very exciting lineup of topics to share with you on our podcast today. But if you are new around here, on this podcast we talk things life. All things life, from marriage and the ins and outs of that, our experience. We've been married for just over 13 years now. Parenthood, we have 3 young kids, if you're not aware, 10, 8, and 5. And also just working amidst all of the chaos of raising a family and being married.
I'm not wearing a onesie. No. What are the things you wear?
Rompers?
Romper. I'm not wearing a romper. My shirt and shorts are just the same color.
Okay, Brandon needed to get that off his chest.
Well, I was...
Yeah, I know. I already thought when you walked over here and got yourself
You thought
seated.
I was wearing a romper.
No, I did not think you were wearing a romper because I would know if you owned a romper, which you do not. But I had the thought that you were a little too matchy-matchy. But after the field day we just had trying to get our children to sleep so that we could begin filming, I said, he's clothed, it doesn't matter. And I chose not to say anything to you about it. But it seems you have also observed that you're a little too matchy-matchy. But it is what it is. We are going to continue with the Brittney and Brandon Show. So that is what this podcast is all about, and the bottom line is we try to keep everything realistic. So join us and let's chat life. Today, some of the topics we are going to discuss include what is it like for both of us to have summers off now that we are both teachers. We're also going to talk about some ways that we keep our kids busy in productive ways over the summer, in addition to giving them some downtime, but we'll get more into that. We're going to talk about a recent day trip that we went on and all of the details that come along with that. It got a little bit hairy scary, as I like to say, at a few parts, but we made it and there were some beautiful views that made it all quite worth it. And then we have a unique question that we are going to answer. So first off, what is it like for both of us to have summers off? It's
awesome.
It's a simple statement. We're teachers, we have summers off. There are a whole lot of thoughts and feelings and opinions that come along with the concept that teachers have summers off. I don't really want to I don't really want to dive into that. That controversy isn't the side of things I want to cover right now. I will just say briefly, in a non-snarky way, just in an informative way, teachers do receive pay year-round for all 365 calendar days, but we are paid for 190 days, and we choose to split our paycheck up over 365 days instead of just the 190 days in order to be paid for the vacations that we have, like spring breaks, Christmas breaks, and also the summers that we have off. So, in case you weren't aware, now you are.
Which isn't the case sometimes. Like, I think it might still be a thing somewhere, like You don't have a choice currently, right?
No, I do.
Oh, you still do?
I do.
Oh.
Yes. So what Brandon is touching upon is that in some districts, you can choose to not receive pay over the breaks and the summer, and you can just be paid for the 190 days. And then, of course, each paycheck that you do receive will feel like it's a larger paycheck because it's not being spread out over as many days. I don't choose that option. Not many teachers do from my experience, but some districts do allow that. You can take a lump sum. Well, actually, I don't know that you can.
In Augusta, you had a choice, but I didn't think here you did. Anyway.
And actually, I don't think it's what I just said. Some districts probably do that way, but at least in my former district, I don't really, because this isn't an option I choose, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but in my former district, it was, you received the pay that you would if you split your paycheck up over 365 days throughout the year, but then at the end of the school year in June, you could choose a lump sum to be paid the remainder of your salary for that school year, or you could continue to have it divided over the summer. Yep. Anyway, so what's it like? Well, first and foremost, it is a beautiful experience. Coming from a family who has not always had this, I used to feel very envious of other teacher friends I had who had spouses who were also in the field of education, because the concept of having summers off together felt like the most beautiful thing. And one of our top priorities is family, spending time together as a family, making memories, raising our kids together, both being present for our children, and all of that is made that much more possible and a little easier by us both having very similar schedules. So, first and foremost, it's an absolutely beautiful opportunity, and we do not take it for granted. We are so thankful that this is something we are able to have as a family, especially while our kids are young. If you're not familiar, Brandon worked in the automotive field at a car dealership for many years, over a decade, right out of college, and up until he accepted a position as...
Right out of high school.
Yeah, right out of high school through college.
Yeah.
Yep. And then he accepted a position 2 years ago now at a local community college where he teaches automotive classes. So still in the field that he loves and is passionate about, but now interacting with, I say kids, but they are young adults. And that allows us to have summers off together. I have always been a teacher. Right out of college, I accepted a position as a 6th grade teacher, which I taught that grade level for 9 years, and now I am a 4th grade teacher, and this next school year will be my 12th year teaching. So I have always had summers off, and I have always chosen to take my summers off, as in I have not lined up summer work like many people in education do. And the reason for that is because the very first year that I was a teacher, I was also pregnant with our first child, Eli. So when I began my career as a teacher, I was pregnant, and he was born in February of that very first year that I was teaching. So I wanted my summer off with my baby, and that was perfect and wonderful.
Didn't you just finish your 12th year? It was 9 years the first time, then 3. You just finished your 3rd year here. Unless it wasn't 9 the first time.
It was 9 years in 6th grade. 7 years in my previous district.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
just finished my 4th year in this district.
Okay. I was thinking the first number was... Yeah, okay.
So I just finished my 11th year, going into my 12th. I mean, when I said 12, I questioned myself a little bit. So then when he questioned me as well, I was like, maybe I do have this wrong.
I was forgetting that you did 1 year, 2 years of 6th grade?
2 years of 6th in this current district.
Yeah.
Before moving to 4th. Yeah, so when you've been teaching for over a decade, in my experience, the years start to blend together more and more.
Anything for over a decade.
That's true. That feels valid. So, surface level, it's beautiful, and it is an amazing opportunity. And if there's any way that your family can work that out, go for it. I would not have any reservations in recommending it to anyone. There are, of course, other elements that work into the situation. I will say from my perspective, I had to get used to having him around in the summers. And I don't mean that to say that we didn't want him around or that he was an inconvenience or anything like that, but we were in a routine. We had done this for 9 years, 9 summers without him.
Oh,
While you were still in the automotive field. So we had, of course, not all of the children were alive for all of those summers. Eli was, and then Charlie was alive for more than Colin and whatnot. But I had done 9 summers with 1, 2, or 3 children with him working full time. And he was never really one to take vacations because his vacations ended up being around the births of our children for 3 of the years that he was in the automotive field. And other vacations
used them all up because of sick kids.
Yeah. So in the automotive field, like, vacations weren't really an ideal thing, and were not something that we could bank on him having. And then it was also, could he get time off when we wanted him to have it off? And that's a whole nother side of things. So we won't dive into that. But my purpose here is that I had spent 9 years doing this without him in the summers, and therefore we had routines in place. We had patterns that we liked to follow, and ways that we liked to do things. And then Brandon was home in the summers, and I wouldn't trade it, of course. I would not want to go back to how it was before. One thing that I think has been fantastic for our family because of the way this came about, and because the kids and I had many summers where he was not with us, he teaches a summer class. Jump in. You've got to do some talking here. My voice is lovely, but...
So I have an option to teach a summer class for 6.5 for 7 weeks. And because I have from beginning of May to end of August off. So I still get a good portion of the summer off. It probably ends up being equal to your summer off, I guess.
Yeah, so there's 2 summer sessions at the college, and one of his colleagues teaches the first summer session, which is mid-May to end of June.
Or beginning of July, and then I start the beginning of July and go to pretty much the beginning of the regular fall school year. And
it's 3 days a week. Full days, so 8 hours?
Yep.
So 24 hours a week, which is not bad. It gives him 4 days off with us, 3 days working, and the pay is really motivational, I'll say. And it gives us a really good blend of having that additional family time that we desire, but also the kids and I having a little taste of what we've always known. So it's just been a great way for us to integrate this change. And for the foreseeable future, I think that he'll continue to pursue teaching a summer class because he enjoys it, and because, as I mentioned, the pay is very motivational. But I don't know if it will be that way forever. We've, years down the road, we've talked about some of our dreams and goals, and one of those is purchasing property on Amelia Island, where I have family, and a place that I've vacationed almost every summer of my life, and where he's been coming for over a decade each summer now. And it's our home away from home, and so we would love to own a property there one day and be able to rent it out for many months of the year, but also reserve a month or so for ourselves and our family in the summer when we are off. So that's a little bit, like, in a nutshell, of what it's like. I think the only other thing I'll say is it does make taking family trips so much more manageable and realistic. We did struggle a little bit last summer because his summer class, it just didn't line up super great for whatever reason, but it began in the early 20-somethings of June, like the 23rd or 24th, and I got out of school in the mid-teens, like 16th, 17th or something. And so from the time that I got out of school to the time that his summer class started was a week or less. So we were not able to take our annual trip to Florida then. And then his class went until the first week
and a half before the fall.
Yeah, like the 8th or something of August. And Eli was also involved in states for track. And so that there was an event that he needed to be in the state for as well. So between his class and Eli's track situation, we were not able to go to Florida until the 9th or 10th, somewhere in there, of August. And then he needed to be back for like the 24th. He had a teacher day he needed to be at the college for. So we had a really tight timeline that we weren't used to. I mean,
that was the first.
I guess that's.
That was the first summer.
Is it the first time we drove down in the summer?
No, it wasn't the first time we drove down, but it was the
first time we drove down in the summer.
We've always driven down in the summer.
Okay, so first what?
The first summer I had off after a school year.
Okay.
So like, it was the first time I had taught that class in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was just...
It worked out better this year.
It worked out way better this year because his summer class did not start until, with the way the 4th fell, it didn't actually start. It technically started on July 3rd, but it's a Tuesday, Thursday, Friday class. The 3rd was a Monday. So it would have started the 4th, but that was holiday, so then it didn't start until the 6th, Thursday the 6th. So as soon as we got out of school, as we talked about in the last Brittney and Brandon episode, the very day that the kids and I got out of school, we came home, packed the car, and drove ourselves to Florida over the course of 25 hours straight. And we had a beautiful time. It was amazing. It was wonderful. If you'd like to hear more about that, please check out episode 8 of the Brittney and Brandon Show. Truly incredible. It's better and better. Every summer I say that was the best vacation we had to Florida. It's just wonderful to have family there. We stay with family when we're down there. So yes, it was an amazing opportunity to have such a long stretch. That is the longest stretch of time that we have all been able to be in Florida together. There was one summer that the kids and I stayed longer than this time, but Brandon was not able to stay with us that whole time, and he flew home. And I lost my mind a little. I don't think we'll get too much into that, but in my head I was like, yeah, it's okay. I can stay a week in Florida with my 2 children. Colin wasn't born yet, and my grandmother, who I adore, and I'll be fine without Brandon for a week, and then we'll fly home and we'll be with him.
That wasn't the case.
That wasn't the case. No, I could not have anticipated it. I went crazy. I was very uncomfortable without him there. It just bothered me a lot to not have him with us. So I don't vacation without him anymore, unless it's just like a 1 or 2 overnights away. I can do that, but otherwise I don't vacation without Brandon.
It's also without kids when you do that.
Yeah, if I ever go away overnight without him, it's without kids. And I've only gone twice. Once for a teacher retreat and once this past May for one of my best friend's
every other
bachelorette
weekend,
parties.
actually.
Every other weekend. I'm hardly ever home. Spend more time with my friends than my kids. No. Yeah, I don't go away very often. I'm a homebody and I really like my house and I really like my bed. So this is where I like to be. I mean here, but here. Anyway, so that's that about us having the summers off together. Highly recommend it. It's fantastic. Comes with some slight challenges and needing to rework routines and whatnot, but that's not really...
The other end of it is that I get to do projects around the house, but I have to squeeze most of the projects in between when I get out of school and they get out of school, because doing projects with everyone home is not at all productive, it seems. It's so hard to get anything done.
Times, yeah. Yeah. And that is another advantage to him getting out the first-ish week in May, and then us not getting out until usually the middle of June. He's got that like 5-week stretch where he can just do house projects. And you might wonder, like, why do you have that many house projects? But we're just always renovating. And not because we have to, but
Renovating
just or adding on. And this is our forever home and has been since the day we purchased it. We knew when we purchased it on my 21st birthday that it was our forever home. And at the time that we purchased it, it was plenty big. It had everything that we needed. But of course, as our family grew, our house needed to do some growing with us. So our house has grown significantly in the time that we have owned it. And also, it's inevitable that you want to do updates and make changes and things as progressions are made and newer, better items come out. So we've done little updates and things along the way, and just if there's something we really want in a home that isn't in our home, we think about how can we make it happen. We have a house to home series on YouTube, so it is also located at the Bees Business. Check it out. I think we're a pretty good team. We're a bit of a dynamic duo, if I say so. If I say so.
If I do say so.
If I do say so myself. There we go. Phew. See? Dynamic duo. I can't get my words out. He helps me. I am definitely more of the dreamer, the envisioner, the planner.
I just do what she tells me.
He's the doer. He's the, okay, tell me what to do. I'm going to do it. And I often will give him pretty clear ideas of what I want, but he, as we've been together longer and we just mesh together more and more, he's able to now do some projects, and I can just show him like 1 or 2 inspo pictures from Pinterest, and he's like, okay, got it. He built a pet-tainment center, as we've lovingly called it, and it is a large double dog kennel essentially, but it has a nice look to it. It's a little fancy, if you will. It's in our dining room, so we wanted it to look nice. But yeah, go check out the House to Home series if you'd like to know more about that. Anyway, moving on to the next topic that we want to discuss today. How do we keep our kids entertained, productive, all of that in the summer? How do we prevent academic regressions, or summer slide, if you've heard that term? As a teacher, I will say that summer slide is a real thing. It does happen for some kids, not all kids, but there are some pretty simple things that families can do to prevent that or minimize it. And we try to keep things fun because I know how much I appreciate this time to recharge, reconnect with my interests that I don't feel like I've had time for throughout the school year. And I want that for my children too, because ultimately I don't know what careers they're going to choose when they're older, and I don't know if they're going to have good amounts of time off like they do right now, and they're only young ones. So some of the simple yet beneficial things that we do include, we have the kids write a letter or letters to a couple of family members that live out of state each week, and that gets them writing, it gets them thinking, reflecting on their summer, and they often will include a fun fact or ask a question, and it just gives them that opportunity to have a goal and a purpose and a structure to their writing. But it's pretty open-ended and they can sort of go about it as they please. I don't choose to edit their writing and tell them when they need to add periods or correct the spelling of a word. I could do those things, but I don't want the opportunity to connect with a loved one by writing them a letter. Okay, we're back. I just filled a 256 gigabyte memory card, not all with the Brittney Brandon Show, but with content that I have yet to edit and produce. So I needed to put in a new a new memory card. And here we are. So I don't choose to edit my kids' writing because I just don't feel like that's a benefit for them that sort of just defeats the purpose that I'm going for. But we really love having them write the letters to family members because it is something that serves multiple purposes. They're connecting with a family member, they're getting some writing in, and it's just generally a productive way for them to spend some of their time. Another thing that we do with our kids is encourage them to read, especially when we are in the car or before bed. They don't always read before bed, but reading in the car is something that we definitely encourage because it keeps them off their devices, which is, of course, they love devices like pretty much any child. And they do get screen time. We monitor it, and on their Kindles, we have a set amount of time for during the week and the weekends. It's an hour during the week, 2 hours on the weekends, and that is the limit that we have set for them, and it automatically powers off. But we're starting to get to this phase of life where Kindles are no longer the only devices they have. Our oldest has an iPod now, and I've yet to figure out if there's a way for me to get it to just shut down after a certain amount of time has elapsed. So it requires a little bit more awareness on our part of how much he's been using it, and also truthfulness on his part. We don't allow devices in the kids' bedrooms. I'm going to back off that train though, because I get real chatty and I like to talk, hence the reason that we have a podcast. But devices are not the primary topic here. So we encourage reading, especially at those 2 times. And we like to call them reading rides. And we especially like rainy reading rides when Brandon was still working at the automotive dealer and we were off together in the summers. When I would sort of hit my limit as a mom of 3 without her spouse, I would pack the kids in the car, go grab my favorite drink somewhere, and we would just ride and they would read. And the expectation was that they were not talking, they were reading, or for the littlest, they were probably napping. And I was just calmly sipping my drink and recollecting myself so that
it was
I
like
could...
a Starbucks drink, not like an alcoholic drink.
Oh, yeah. I don't even think to say not an alcoholic drink because I really don't ever drink alcohol. Fun fact, I've never been drunk in my whole life. I am 33. Never been drunk. Never even been close to being drunk. I've been tipsy a handful of times. But
I got nothing.
yeah, never been drunk. So anyway, definitely not alcoholic drinks, especially since I'm driving my children. Starbucks, Dunkin'. Starbucks is my preferred, and I am jonesing hard for a Starbucks right now because I've had Dunkin' teas over the last couple days. I'm sounding really prissy right now, but I've had Dunkin' teas and I've not had the opportunity to have my strawberry lemonade acai drink at Starbucks since the weekend, I think. And today's Thursday.
It's only Thursday.
Only? That's 4 days with no Starbucks. Yeah, that sounds really snooty, uppity, high class,
Okay.
high maintenance.
Yes.
Yes. Do you see how fast he responded to that? Anyway, so reading while riding is a great opportunity for our kids. If you have a child that gets car sick, this obviously is not going to work for you, and you could adjust this a little bit. You can have like an hour out of your day that is the reading hour at home or something of that nature. But that is one way that we get reading in for our kids on a consistent basis. And one way that we get math in is math is just happening for our kids pretty frequently. I am primarily a math teacher. I teach math, science, and social studies, and so math is my passion. And I have a very mathematical mind, and I look for patterns, and I just enjoy that mental computation. And so it's something that we end up incorporating in our daily lives without effort. It just happens, and the kids are talking with us and conversing in a way that we're getting math in there, but in a slightly more organized fashion, because that's not, those spur of the moment conversations aren't going to happen in everyone's household. With the GEM system, the reward system that we do with our kids, we tie money to that after they've earned, it's 50 gems for the older two, 40 for Colin, our youngest, 40, 40, 4 F-O-R, 40 gems for Colin to earn. And once they've earned their gems, they get $10, and they can either save it or spend it, and they can spend it online, on Amazon, or elsewhere. They can buy their favorite candy or gum options that we don't always buy for them. They get to decide how they want to spend that money. And so that is encouraging some math skills, because not only are they counting how many gems do I have and how many more do I need to earn, but they're also thinking about how do I want to spend that $10. If I spend 5 of it on an Amazon item, I have 5 of it to spend on gum or whatever it may be that their interests and desires are at the current time. But we've been doing this with our kids for a couple of years now, and as we've continued to use this reward system, it has just become stronger for us, not only because the kids are used to it, but also because we've made some little changes along the way. I'm not going to get too much into that reward system. I do have a video about it on my YouTube channel, so I will link it for you in the cards as well as in the description box. So if you want to check that out, you are more than welcome to. But that is how we get some math in there. And so the purpose of all of this is just to keep things fun for our kids, to keep summer feeling like a break, and to incorporate those academic skills kind of sneakily. Without them knowing. So that it feels natural, it feels fun, it feels good to engage in these things. And then we are accomplishing a whole lot of things all at once. We are helping our children to have fun, but we're keeping their minds and their bodies active. Oh, the other part was track. They're involved in track over the summer. Colin has not yet decided to officially participate in the organized state meets, but he does participate in a lot of the practices, and this is a way that they just keep their bodies healthy and active. And we have very active children, so this is really not something that we have to intentionally plan physical activity. They are outside all the time, climbing trees, climbing anything and everything, running, riding bikes, swimming, swinging, just everything. They're very busy kids. So track is more to keep them busy enough so that they don't get into trouble in their idle time, really. And our older two, who participate at the state level, are very into it. We just came from track today. Every Thursday is a track meet in the summer. Not quite every Thursday, but every Thursday for about 5 or 6 weeks. And they get little ribbons if they place in at least 6th place or higher, and so they've each gotten a couple of ribbons, and they're very proud of themselves. And it's a lot of fun to see them not only form friendships and encourage existing friendships of children that they were friends with who are also doing track, but it's just another way for them to push themselves. Especially Charlie. Eli's really a go-getter, loves sports, jumps right in. Charlie's a little more reserved, so she's pushed herself hard to do some things that she's not been super comfortable with this year, particularly the 800 meter, 2 full laps around the track, aka a half mile. And she has done that, though she really did not want to, and she did amazing. She came in 2nd place. So I have reminded her of that experience multiple times, because I think it's a great learning opportunity. That's something she felt was so hard to do, and initially when she finished, she came off that track and I legitimately thought she was going to pass out. She just collapsed into my arms, and I was trying to cool her down, but not too rapidly, because I was thinking that too rapidly was bad. And so trying to get a cooling towel on her, get her to drink some water, and then after a few minutes I dumped some water on her head, and she came out of it, but it took time. And she had another event she had to go do, and at first I was thinking she's not going to be able to do this, but it was a relay, and in order for the other kids who had signed up for the relay to participate, she had to participate. And if she didn't, then all the other kids in the relay, 3 other kids, weren't going to get to do their event. So not that I was going to pressure her because of that, but in my mind I knew I really hope she can pull this off. So I did not use that as a way to encourage her to get out there and do it at all. I didn't want that pressure on her, but she was able to just take some deep breaths, get some water in her, sit in the shade. We were fanning her and misting her and all the things, and she got out there and she did that relay, and they placed in that too. I think they came in third for the relay, so that was a very good day for her. Eli also ended up doing the 800, and he's a little more active, and so that was a little more his comfort, though he finished and was similar to Charlie, not quite at the point of passing out, but he also was like, I'm never doing that again. So the 800 is not their forte, we'll say, but they both have done it, and they both pushed themselves this season, and it's been really beautiful to witness. That's one thing, going back to our first topic, that's one thing that's hard about Brandon working the 3 days a week, because he doesn't get to pick the days of his class, and he works Thursdays, and so he
missed all of them.
He misses all the track meets. He can go to practice, which is good, but the meets are just, he can't just say, oh, instead of Thursday we'll do this Tuesday this week or Monday this week or whatever. He can't change the days like that, because some students are taking other summer classes, or they work, or whatever. So you can't just change things on a dime when you're working with young adults that have their own schedules. So that part's been a little bit tricky, but it is what it is, and I try to capture memories, and we share details with him, and we call it good. So those are the things we do to keep our kids busy, active, productive, engaging in academics over the summer without them really knowing, and just trying to either prevent or slow that regression that can happen over the summertime when kids are not in school every day. Okay, we're revising our schedule a little bit because, surprise, we talk a lot, and so we had I talk a lot. We had 4 topics on our list for this evening, and we've made it through 2 of them, and we're just going to do the next one and call it good, and we're going to table our question that I had mentioned at the beginning for the next Brittney Brandon Show. The last thing we are going to talk about today is a recent family adventure that we went on. We try to go on family adventures weekly during the school year, and it's toward the end of the school year I was feeling like it was no longer attainable. Through the fall, it was great. The winter, we did pretty good. It was a little harder because we like to do family adventures that are outdoors. Winters in Maine get pretty chilly. We made it work. I will say that I got outside in the winter more this past winter than I think I have for the last several winters, and that felt really good. So I'm looking forward to doing that again. But by springtime, that's a very busy season in the life of a teacher. And spring sports are very robust in our family, so the family adventures got difficult to fit in each week in the spring. But we will go into this school year, I think, with the goal of Sundays are the days we reserve for our family adventures. So if possible, we will continue to do that unless we have some sports that end up on Sundays. In the past, soccer is the fall sport that our kids all play, and in the past it has not been on Sundays, so I'm hoping it will continue to be that way, but we will see. Anyway, all of that to segue into what our most recent family adventure was. On Monday this week, we went to a location called Angel Falls. It is a beautiful location in Township E or D?
Yes, E.
E. In Township E. Yes.
When you get in the middle of nowhere in Maine, towns have numbers. I mean, letters. Well, actually,
there are
some with numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Up in the northern portion of Maine, if
northern, western mountains.
If you're not familiar with this state, they ran out of stamina to give locations unique names, and they're just Township E, Township D, and we drove from Township E to Township D, so it's not just random. I think they pretty much just went through the alphabet. I don't think there's a township for every single letter of the alphabet, but I think they began at A and continued on for at least a little while. And we do have some areas that are just denoted by numbers as well. Fun fact about Maine, if you didn't know that. So in Township E, that is where Angel Falls is located. It's not the easiest place to find. It's not super hard if it's not the hardest, but it's also not the easiest location to find.
Weird way to get there, and then it's well, this last time it was an adventure getting there once you left the car. So it's a 3.5 mile.
Well, from the way we come, but we learned there's the other way too.
Well, yeah, it's 3.5 miles down a dirt road that's about a car and a half wide that recently got washed out because of all the rain.
In multiple spots.
Yeah.
And I think that last year, we went in September last year. That was the first time we'd ever gone to Angel Falls. And then we went again this past Monday. And when we went last year, there were some logging type vehicles and construction things in the area, but this time there was nothing. There was
Well, that's another common thing in the less populated areas of Maine. You just have networks of logging roads from forestry. But so this was at one point probably just started as a logging road, and then now seems like it's used primarily
to get to Angel Falls.
access the Angel Falls.
And I would say that a fair amount of people know about it in Maine, and I think that there are many out-of-state people who also know about it. I believe that they're finding out about it from some kind of connection they have to Maine. If you Google search Angel Falls, first you're going to get someplace in what country?
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Well, I think that's the tallest waterfall in the world.
Oh, and coincidentally it has the same name as this little one in Maine.
I think
well, it's
it
not
is.
Little.
I could be wrong. Well, I think this one's the tallest one in Maine.
That could be accurate.
I think.
It's a pretty robust one. So anyway, Angel Falls, it's beautiful. We've been once, wanted to go again. And when we went in September last year, it was an abnormally warm day for Maine, but it hadn't been warm around this day, so the water was pretty chilly. And
it hadn't rained constantly for 3 weeks before we went either.
That's going to be an important part of this story today. Yeah, it hadn't rained a ton. So Maine has just been, you've probably, if you are on social media of any kind, you've probably seen a meme or two about the weather in Maine lately and how much rain we have gotten. It's just been a really rainy summer. And I don't know any of like the records or anything yet, but I'm wondering if we've broken rainfall records.
When we went in the last fall, the trail, once you drive 3.5 miles down this place, there's a parking lot, and I think the trail total is a half mile, I think.
Yeah, it's not super long.
To the falls, and then the same trail back. And you cross the river.
Is it a river?
Stream, river, whatever.
Yeah, river, stream. The water that is coming off the falls keeps going down the mountain, and so whatever that is.
Well, the first time is actually a different. The first crossing is not the same one. Yeah. But anyway, you cross flowing water 4 times on the way up. And the first time we went, it wasn't at all swimming weather, so we were not prepared to get wet, and it was possible to do not getting wet.
Other than our feet, I think we did.
Well, I think Colin was the only one that wore Crocs.
Yeah, I think the rest of us, we just really didn't know what we were getting into. And
I had sneakers on, or
I think I did too, actually.
Colin was the only one that actually had footwear that could get wet, I'm pretty sure.
So I think maybe in September we really didn't get wet. There's a vlog about this on my channel too.
Anyway, so we were able to go all the way up, crossing 4 times. Like there was like a makeshift little, people made like a dam with a pile of sticks the first
crossing.
And then the other ones you could just use rocks to go across, because Maine is very rocky, so just the erosion of the river left big rocks that you could go across. They went there and back. No one got wet. I mean, it would have been possible if someone slipped on a rock, but we didn't. But this time was a different story because we got 3 weeks of rain.
More than 3.
Well,
but just a lot of rain.
A lot of rain. And the first one, well, no, we met someone before we got to the first crossing. No.
As we were arriving at the first crossing, there was a family coming across. They had some children similar in age to ours, and they said...
They went across the first one, got to the second one, and said, no, and turned around.
Yeah, he said, we didn't feel comfortable crossing with our kids. He said, just so you know. He said it was a choice we made, but we just didn't feel comfortable crossing. So we kept that in mind, and we kind of prepped ourselves that when we got to the second crossing, if it wasn't looking like a safe option, that we would turn around. As disappointing as it would be to not get to see the falls, safety when it comes to rapidly moving water is got to be a priority. So
we did the first one.
We all got wet.
Oh yeah, you couldn't not get wet. Like there was
absolutely zero.
Deep, like
as we were leaving, there was a couple, just a man and a woman, coming down to go, and they had sneakers with socks on. And maybe they were thinking, oh yeah, no problem if they get wet, but they just didn't really have that look in their eye. So Brandon said to them, you're gonna get wet. And they were like, oh.
By the time we got to the car, they were walking back up.
Yeah. So they had evidently decided not to go.
So at least knee deep. At least.
Yeah, it was
on an adult.
That first cross for me, I got the bottoms. I was wearing a romper that day, and I got the bottom short portion, just like an inch up on the fabric of my romper. Got wet.
Yeah. And then I was, well, that, of course, naturally, I was helping the kids go across.
One at a time.
And Brittney. And then...
Because, of course, I couldn't just go without any of my camera equipment.
I was just carrying Colin, so that Eli and Charlie, I'd just help them walk across. And it was waist deep to them. And then Colin I would carry across. And when I was carrying Colin across, I slipped on a rock and went to my knees. Anyways,
So apparently, I gotta jump in. We're getting panicked here at the end. I thought that my backup battery was charged. It's not, so that one is out now because it was just telling us that it was about to die, and it did die, and now it's charging, and now my other battery is in, and it's also about to die. So we're gonna be really fast on this trip. So Brandon was helping all the kids across, carrying Colin, helping me across because I had all my camera gear, my drone, my GoPro, this camera, expensive things, and only one of which, the GoPro, is waterproof. So across the first one we did okay. We get to the second one, it's looking more intense. The first one was definitely the easiest. Luckily, just as we were arriving at the second crossing, there was a family that was finishing crossing. They were still on their way up to the falls. Our efforts to be speedy did not quite pay off. We did our best, but it wasn't enough. So we are finishing filming on my good old iPhone. So if you're noticing a difference in quality, yep, your eyes are not getting tired. There's a difference in quality. But here we are, finishing up because it's Thursday and this episode needs to go up tomorrow. And so, back to Angel Falls. We're going to keep it brief. We're going to finish things off. We're going to go have some Ben & Jerry's ice cream and call it a night. But, made it to the second crossing. Family had just finished crossing. The dad came back into the water and said, I'll help you get your kids across. So he did just that. He helped us get the kids across. He ended up falling and slipping, and it was a little concerning. I think it concerned Charlie. And he was okay. He wasn't injured and didn't get swept to a different location or anything, but it was a little bit nerve-wracking in the moment because it could have turned out more poorly. We'll put it that way. And that was just a good reminder, I think, to all of us that it was really important to be cautious as we were making these crosses because the water was definitely strong, very strong.
And it was really only like 20 feet wide at the most.
Yeah.
Ish. So, and there were still rocks you could go on, so there's really only like, there were areas that were like 8 feet that like a kid couldn't cross by themselves.
Yeah.
Ish.
The
So
water is just too strong.
yeah, so we were making like a bridge-ish.
A chain of adults, and we passed child from adult to adult to get them across the last couple of crosses. And at first we made it across the second one, and we kind of like said thank you so much, and we went on our way, and we knew that they were going to be right behind us, but they were taking a break, they were having a little snack. I think he was a little worked up from what had happened, so he just needed a minute, and we were trying to be respectful and give them that space. And they quickly caught up to us once we had gotten to the third crossing, and there was a very kind pair of women that were coming down after already having been at the falls, and they decided they were going to help us get the kids across too. So between the two of them, the family that had helped us, who caught up to us and then helped us again, we had several adults to get our 3 children and their 2 children across, and then the 2 women continued on their way, and we just stayed together. That original family that helped us, we stayed together for the remainder of the 2 crosses to get up there. We enjoyed the falls once we were up there together, and we stayed right with them the whole way down, and we continued to help each other across all 4 crosses. So it was a really neat experience in that I just felt really good about humanity in that moment and in that experience, because none of these people had to be as helpful as they were, especially in a situation where the water was strong and challenging, and just taking care of yourself was enough of a task, but they were going above and beyond willingly to assist us, and that just was really great to see. So very thankful for that piece of this experience. And once we were up at the falls, unbelievably gorgeous, so very different than when we were there in September. I had had these visions of flying my drone at the falls and bringing it all the way up to the top of the falls and back down, and just having this really amazing footage. And if I had had my drone in September, I could have done that. It wouldn't have been a problem. But
It's about 100 feet-ish, I think. You're gonna look it up.
you're gonna look it up. So if I had had my drone in September, no problem. But in July, when we just went, because of all of the rain, the
90
minute
foot.
that you 90
Yeah.
90-foot waterfall, the minute that you climbed over the rocks and the trees in the area and you could see the falls, there was a massive mist that was covering you instantaneously, and I wasn't quite expecting that. You could see the mist in the air, and we were very wet in seconds, and so I ended up having to put my camera away because it's not waterproof, and I got the rest of my short little videos and clips and whatnot on my drone, no, my GoPro, which is waterproof. So I was very thankful to have that with me so that I could continue to capture what the falls looked like at the top. But very beautiful, very powerful. The sound was so intense and encompassing. The kids enjoyed it very much. There are also these little tunnels, like cave type things up there that it kind of freaks me out that they climb in them, but they do, and
They've been there for a long time.
I know, it just, I don't know.
Some boulders that are like,
But what if an animal's in there? I just,
I mean, yeah, the animal thing could happen, but as far as like the rocks moving, that won't never happen. Took a glacier to put them there.
So anyway, they climb all in and out of these, and they think that that's a wonderful experience. So we soaked in the falls and got soaked by the falls. I didn't even plan that. And enjoyed the views, and then it was time to head back down. And I'm very happy to report that there were next to no injuries. The only injury actually was Brandon. He cut his shin at some point. Was it that first fall? I don't think it was.
No, it was on the way. Yeah, it was something like that. Anyway.
on the way down, he ended up cutting his shin.
It wasn't.
It did bleed and whatnot, but yeah, he's got a little scab there now. But it was not terrible, and there were no other injuries. So that was fantastic. It was really great to meet this other family. We do know that they live in Maine, but we actually didn't even share names with each other, and it wasn't an intentional thing. I think we were just focusing on our purpose and keeping everyone safe, and that was the priority. So thankful to that family for sure. I don't know that we would have gone all the way to the top of the falls if we hadn't ended up partnering up with that family to help us get the kids through safely. I think if it had just been Brandon and I, we may have turned back because
To throw your bag of gear across before we crossed.
something like that, yeah. And that's another great part of all this is that I did end up getting very wet from the waist down, but the backpack that I had all of my camera gear in never got wet, and it was not a waterproof backpack or anything like that, so it never got wet, and I didn't have any slips or falls or anything like that, so all was well. We collected wonderful memories in our mind, and I did on video and through pictures, and we had our faith in humanity restored a little bit. It's really easy to focus on the negatives or the sadder parts of things that happen in our society today. So just really nice to encounter some very kind people. We also encountered a family from Missouri, and they had made it across the first crossing. We were on our way back down, and we met at the second crossing, and I don't know if they knew what they were getting into. Brandon offered to help them across, and they were like, no, we're fine, it's okay. And they had on like hiker-esque gear, but it was like hiking boots and stuff, and when they said they were from Missouri, we went, oh, and Brandon said, yeah, that's a pretty flat state. And the dad was like, yep, pretty flat, not like this. So we wished them well, and we gave them a couple of pointers, and
I haven't heard on the news that
anything
a couple
happened to
family
anyone.
from Missouri lost at sea.
So hopefully they had a good experience and whatnot. But one other thing to note about Angel Falls, if you are from Maine and watching this, or if you visit Maine and want to go there is no cell phone service. So there is no...
You're in the middle, you drive to the middle of nowhere and then walk a half a mile further into the middle of nowhere.
There's really no service. Like, you are not calling for help if something happens. So that was another thing I had in the back of my mind when we were doing all of this. I was like, oh, what if something does happen? You'd have to send someone for help, and that would take forever. So anyway.
The guy that, when they went the first time, the dad broke his ankle there.
There?
Yeah.
Huh. Why would he come back?
I don't know.
The family that helped us across.
Yeah, the dad broke his ankle there.
Huh. The first time they were there.
Yeah.
When their son was 4?
Yeah.
Wow. Their son was 13 now, so we learned a little bit about each other, but not names.
Not names.
But their son is now 13, so I guess 9 years ago was the first time they had gone to Angel Falls, and the dad broke his ankle while he was there. Oh, I can only imagine. Then you've got to get yourself out of there, get to a place that has service, because even once you leave the falls, it's still multiple miles in either direction before you're going to get service
the whole
back.
3.5 mile road going 10 miles an hour.
Because you can't go fast on that, or you are going to lose a tire off your vehicle or something. It is a bumpy, rocky terrain.
Then it's cool, glitchy for a little bit.
Yeah, so yeah, that was our trip. Oh, Brandon broke his glasses on that trip too, and now they're super glued.
They're super glued.
Woohoo! And he's still gonna call the eye doctor to get that all sorted
Yeah.
out. He didn't want me to bring that up, but we can't leave that out of the Brittney and Brandon episode. Okay, so this has been maybe one of the most dysfunctional episodes we've done, at least toward the end. But if you have made it this far, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Brittney and Brandon Show. I hope that you laughed or felt like you got something out of this. If there's anyone else that you feel like would benefit from watching this episode, please share it with them. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any future content from us, whether it's the Brittney Brandon Show or from any of the other series here on this channel. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you
in the next one.
Wow, first try. He did it. First try on the 9th episode. High to the 5. Get over here. Oh, yeah. All right. Ben and Jerry's time.